In this episode, we're going to make a health bar, a timer, and something that will track our collected upgrades. Hello and welcome to how to create a Vampire Survivors clone in Godot 4. So today we're just going to be making a bunch of UI components and we're going to be starting with the health bar. So I'm just going to go into the GUI node and I'm going to type in a texture progress bar, and this is going to be our health bar, so we're just going to rename this as health bar, which I'm going to make access as a unique node, which we will reference later. So in our textures we're going to type in health, and in our over texture we're going to make this black box, which is just going to be called health bar, and then in our progress this is just going to be health.png. And you'll see if we set the value to 50, you'll see kind of what it looks like. I'm going to set the layout to sort of match the size, so this is going to be 32 by 8. And to position this, because I want this to be in the middle of the screen, just below the player, I'm going to have this as half of the size. And then I'm going to subtract 16, which is half of the size here. So there we go. And then I'm going to add this 200 below, since I believe this is where it appears underneath the player. I'm also going to be making this somewhat transparent. So I'm going to set the self-modulate to 100. And now if I save that and run the game, we can see that we kind of have a health bar that looks pretty good. It does seem to be appearing over our level, and so to change that, I'm going to be making this appear above the level. So there we go. Does this change anything? Yes, it does, and now it is behind, and we're going to keep it like that right there. So the next thing we do is need to actually make this work, and we are going to, number one, be adding an onReady var to our health bar, so this is going to be called health bar equals get node and health bar. And I am going to be, I believe we have to do this in the hurt function. So when we get hurt, we're going to do health bar dot max value equals max HP, and then health bar dot value equals HP, and that should work anytime we get hurt. But we do need to set this up initially, so I am just going to copy and paste this function into our ready function, so it gets called once, and I'm gonna give off 3 zeros as the arguments because I want the player to take 0 points of damage, and these two don't matter, but I just have to fill them in. So now when we play, we have a health bar that follows us, and I may want to just go into my enemy spawner and spawn a lot more enemies, so let's just make that 5 and play this just to show what happens when we actually take damage. So alright, we've got a lot more kobolds facing us now, and as we get hit, we'll see that I'm beginning to lose HP in a visual setting. So that all works pretty good. So the next thing we are going to be making is a timer, which is going to be around here. So once again, click on that. We're going to be adding a label. And this is just going to be called label timer, which I'm going to be making access as a unique node, and I'm just going to be typing in what we want, which is going to be a 00:00. For our font, we're just going to be typing OTF into that search bar. I'm going to go to theme override, and I'm just going to drag and drop my tenderness font into that, which ends up looking pretty good. I'm also going to be setting the font size to 20. So that works pretty good. Now I'm just going to load up my reference. There we go, to make sure that I'm able to align it with what we want. So when we click on our label timer. I'm going to be making the alignments center and center. I am going to be making the layout 80 by 24 pixels. And for the position, I'm going to be setting this as 280, which is the middle of the screen minus half the size, and 20. So it is just underneath the progress bar. So now that we've done that, we need to actually reference it and make it count. So we'll do an onReady var label timer equals get node label timer, no capital I. Fantastic. So now what we need to do is create a new function, which we are going to be calling function change time. And this is going to have an argument called argTime equals 0. And for the meantime, we're just going to pass this and scroll right back up to the top and add a variable called time. And that's just going to equal 0, which we're going to leave at there and get all the way down. And we are going to be altering the text of our label timer. Now, I want this to always have 4 characters on the screen. And by default, if we have time equals 1, it's only going to show 1 character. So, to start with, I'm going to be doing a time equals arg time, just to get the argument into our time variable. Then I'm going to be getting our minutes, so get m equals get minutes, and it's going to be an integer, and we're going to be doing time divided by 60, and that will give us our amount of minutes. And as an integer, it's going to be a pure number. For our seconds, this is going to be get s, and this is going to be time modulate 60. So that is the time divided by 60, and then whatever remainder is our value. So that's what the modulus value does. So if get m is less than 10, meaning it's only going to be one figure, we are just going to be adding a 0 on top of that. So get m equals string 0 get m. And we are going to be doing the exact same thing with seconds. So get s, if get s is less than 10, then get s equals string 0 get s. And then we just have to set it so that the label timer dot text is equal to string get m colon get s. Now we need something to call this, and what we are going to be doing is calling this from our enemy spawner. So we're going to be going into our enemy spawner, and we are going to be creating a new signal, and this is just going to be called change time. Let me make sure that I'm doing this absolutely correctly. Yep, change time, and this is going to have a time argument. And so first of all, we have to connect it. So function ready, we're just going to be doing a connect change time with our player. So callable player change underscore time, because that's what the function we just made in the player is. And to emit the signal, we're just going to do a emit signal change time in preferably quotation marks. There we go. And we're going to be using time as an argument. So now that we run this, our timer should be going up as the timer goes up. So there we go, there's our timer. The next thing we're going to be adding is some icons based on what we have collected here. So this is going to be a little bit more complicated, and to start with, I'm going to be creating a brand new scene. And this is going to require a texture rect. And this, we're going to be calling this item container. So I'm just going to go to the 2D scene, and it is going to have another child texture rec, which we're going to call item texture. So for our item container, I'm going to be just typing item, and I'm going to be getting this empty item.png into this. In my layout, I'm going to be making this 12 by 12 because I want this to be pretty small, all things considered. And in my item texture, we're actually going to be using code to insert icons into this, but for the meantime, I'm just going to use our iSpear as a reference to how the size we want this to be. And so I want this to be 12 by 12 as well, but you'll see that it is stuck at 32 by 32. So instead, I'm just gonna scale this to 33%. It's a little bit too close to the top corner, so I'm just gonna make this 33, 33, 33, and I think that's pretty good, all things considered. So I'm going to control save this, and I'm going to be creating a new folder in the player folder called GUI, and we're going to be saving that in there. Now we're going to be adding a script, and in the script all we're going to be doing is it's just going to have a variable called upgrade. It's going to equal null. And in our ready function, we're just going to be doing if upgrade does not equal null. So we are going to be changing this in the player script. We're going to be setting our item texture dot texture equals load upgrade db dot upgrade, and then we're going to get the icon from our upgrade DB. So that's all this is going to do. It's such a small script that I'm not going to do an onReady var, just going to be lazy. So now we are going to go into our player, and we are going to create a brand new function to update this. But before we do this, we need to add 2 new graphical user interface components. And these are going to be, let me just see what I did. Grid containers. Grid containers. So we're going to scroll up, get grid containers, and now that we made this, I'm going to do a Control D as well to get 2 grid containers. I'm going to hold down Shift and click on both of them. I'm going to make these 10 columns long, and in our layout that we're going to be doing 200 pixels wide, 16 size, and we're also going to be making this 8 pixels to the left. And the first one I believe is going to be 24 pixels down, and then this one is going to be 40 pixels down, just so they are separated. Now I'm going to be calling this one collected weapons, and these are going to be icons of all the weapons we've collected. And then we're going to have collected upgrades, and these are going to be icons of all the upgrades we have collected. And we're going to be inserting these item containers here into these icons. Before we do that, I'm just going to clear this texture right here because we're going to be adding it in code. And now we have to go into our player script. I'm just going to quickly reference all of this in our onReady variables. So onReady var, oh, I need to access as unique as well. There we go. Collected weapons equals get node collected weapons, and then onReady var collected upgrades equals get node collected upgrades. Okay, is the error going to go away? Fantastic. And then I'm going to have to do another onReady var for the item containers. So onReady var item containers container equals preload, and then I'm just going to type in item here, get our item container .tsn, which we just made, and add it in there. And now we can scroll down to the very bottom and add our function, which is going to be called function adjust GUI collection upgrade. Which I'm just going to call that, pass it, and then I am going to be copy and pasting this function into our update character function. So our update character function has an upgrade already, and we are going to just be using that upgrade to call the adjust GUI collection function. So the upgrade that we select gets transferred into this, and now we're able to do this. So we are going to be doing this by, if I go into my item DB, well, I just type in DB. So what you'll see is that the key is actually a different name, but we only want to show the one ice spear. But the unifier for them is the ice spear right here, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to be effectively comparing the display names. So to start with, we're going to be doing a get upgraded display names equals upgrade db dot upgrades. Then we're going to be getting the upgrade, and we're going to be getting the display name. So the display name of the upgrade right here. Afterwards, we're going to be also getting the type. So get type equals upgrade database dot upgrades upgrade type. And then we're just going to be checking if the get type does not equal item, because we don't want any food. We're going to create a new variable, which is just going to be called collected display names. And this is going to equal an empty array, which we're going to insert stuff into. So for I in collected upgrades. Collected upgrades, the array which we made. So these are all of the items we have selected while leveling up. We are going to append the get collected display names. Yep, so we're going to do append. And we are going to be appending the display names of each collected upgrade. So upgrade db.upgrades. Our key is going to be the collected upgrades, and we're going to be using the display name and just going to be appending it. And then we are going to be checking if our get upgrade display names, this should really just be a single one rather than a plural. In get collected display names, so if this is going to be within this, we're going to create a new item container. So new underscore item equals item containers dot instantiate. We're going to be setting the upgrade value of that. So upgrade equals upgrade. So that's just this variable here, which will retrieve the icon we want. And then we're just going to do a match type, match get type. And this is going to determine which of these it spawns under. So get type. So if it is a weapon, then we are going to do collected weapons dot add child new item. But if it is an upgrade, we are going to be doing a collected upgrades dot add child new item. And now that we've done this, we're going to be calling this in our upgrade character function. Let's see how this works, or whether it's going to crash. it obviously crashes because reasons. Let's see what we are doing wrong. So it tries to load the... Alright, I'm just going to get this. Alright, item texture. So item texture dot texture equals load upgrade. Here we go, upgrades. There we go. I was missing an S. There we go, and you'll see that now that we've started, we've automatically added a ice spear to our player, but let's say we add a couple more of these items. You'll see that the javelin was added there. If we click on ring, it'll be added to the bottom row. So we're just going to add a couple more of these just to really power up the player, and you'll just see that everything gets added. So I think this is all pretty cool things considered, and now you'll see that our player has a bunch of these upgrades, and which reflect just how powerful the player is in game. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. We'll do a bit of additional explanation in Fury time, and I'll see you there. Whenever the player gets hit, we set the max value of our health bar to the player's max HP, and the value of the health bar to the player's current HP. The health bar values are not set up correctly by default, so we call the hurt function at the beginning of the game, where the player takes 0 damage. This allows the bar to be full at the start of the game. We take the time value from the enemy smolder and transfer it to our player using the change time signal that we connect to the player's change underscore time function. The time variable is primarily going to be used in a future episode, so that's why we aren't just using the argument. Our goal is to display our time in a number format. If the minutes and seconds are single digits, then it would just be a number format, and it wouldn't look nice. To fix this, we first get the minutes by dividing our time by 60 and rounding down by declaring get_m as an int. And for our seconds, we get those using the modulus function, where we get the remaining value after dividing the time by 60. Afterwards, if either the minutes or seconds are less than 10, we turn that value into a string and add a 0 at the start of it. Afterwards, we change the text of the label to another string that combines the minute value, a colon, and the second. We created a scene called an item container, where we just check if the upgrade value matches anything in our upgrade database, and if it does, we make the item texture load the corresponding icon. In order to create these item containers, we use the adjust_GUI_collection function in the upgrade character function using the upgrades argument. To work out whether we need to add a new item container or not, we first get the display name of the upgrade and then also the type of the upgrade. If the type is item, then we do nothing. If it isn't, then we loop through all of our already collected upgrades and get their display name values and add them to a new array called get_collected_display names. After that, we check if the display name of our upgrade argument is within that array. If it isn't, we create a new item container and set its upgrade value to the upgrade argument so it can get the correct icon. Afterwards, we added in either the collected weapons grid container node or the collected upgrades grid container node, depending on its type. If the type is weapon, then it is added as a child to the collected weapons node. If the type is upgrade, then it's added as a child to the collected upgrades node.